All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream. I'm just sending out a couple of notifications here, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So last time we... Oh, my mic is off. Okay. Oh, that's strange. Can you guys hear me? Is that better? It looks like I'm getting audio. I mean, OBS is saying I have audio. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully it's coming through now. Can you guys hear me? You can. Wait, yes as in it's still off, or yes as in you can hear me? OBS is actually saying I do have audio, so it should be coming through. All right. Try again. Yep. Okay. Can you hear me now? Worked. Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah. I don't know what was going on there. OBS is telling me I've got input, so I'm not sure what may have happened there, but as long as it's fixed, that's all that matters. Okay. So tonight we're gonna pick up sort of where we left off last night, which was... I'm doing good. How about you? So last night we started implementing terrain materials, and we made some decent progress. I think we completed all the work that we needed to do in the shader and the shader config, and now we actually have to bind those various resource points in our actual terrain rendering code. So, better from the migraine? Yes, I am. Thank you for asking. I really appreciate that. And yes, it is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Yes. So yeah, we are hopefully going to make some decent progress on terrains today, materials anyway. I don't actually have any textures lined up for that, so I may actually have to go and hunt some of those down, but I'll probably just use, I don't know, textures that I've got already handy for that. All right, so I guess the next thing we're going to need to do is we'll go to dev Kohi and open up our Vim session. Let's see. So I left myself a left off note here. Need to bind these locations and attributes in the terrain code. All right. So to recap, we're sort of doing a bit of a naive implementation here for our terrain materials, and we'll make it a little bit more robust once we have something up and running, right? Truthfully, we'll probably come back and implement it at a later time, right? Because I don't want to spend like the next 16 episodes on terrains alone. But with that in mind, let's go ahead and let's have a look at, was I doing this in the view? So the render view world. I believe there was some stuff in here that I was going to have to do. Terrain locations. So we are going to need to add to those. And then when we actually do the terrain rendering, I think we're actually binding all that stuff in here. Yes, we are. So we're going to need to go ahead and set all those things up. The other thing that we're going to have to do is figure out how our materials are actually going to get mapped into our terrain. So that's actually probably the next step of this. And actually before that even, we need to add this attribute as well. So maybe that's probably what we should do first. So we have our, I think we're loading this up in, where do we put that? Terrain, vertex. So that's just a forward declaration. Here we go. So it looks like I already actually have something here for that. We are using a vector 4 in the shader. But ultimately it winds up getting bound kind of, basically the same way. So I'm going to stick with this definition here and get rid of that to do. Change this terrain max count to 4 for right now. Obviously we'll be upping that later on, but at least now we'll have material weights here. So we've got that as far as the terrain vertex goes. Did we actually update that in here? I think we did. Yes. Okay. So we can get rid of this whole line actually. I don't remember if we're going to have to pad this, so we may actually wind up having to pad that. Do I want to do that now? No. I think I'm just going to leave it as is for right now. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to play it safe and pad it now. I don't want to add this as a separate attribute, so I might just set tangents to be a vector 4. Technically, that means we'll have to update that in the shader as well. And then we could always use the W for something else if we need to. So I'll update that there. I'll update that here. Just so that this is nice and aligned. Let's get rid of that. And I guess we'll need to open up the terrain vertex shader. And we'll need to go to the top and add in this to be a vector 4. And I'm just going to actually delete this because now we have done that. And I think that's actually all we need to do as far as that's concerned. We may actually have a little bit more work to do when we populate that data. So that's going to actually be in the terrain loader, I believe. I believe there's going to be some errors in here. Maybe not. Maybe it's actually the... might actually just be in the terrain itself. I don't remember if we were populating vertex data in here or not. We're reserving it. Should be in the terrain itself. Okay, so terrain C, where we were actually loading this up. Yes, there's the issue. So that needs to be now vector 4, 0. This is obviously wrong, but oops, geez, I can't type tonight either, apparently. But will be populated later. In fact, we don't even really need to do that because technically this is all going to be initialized to 0 anyways. So actually, I'm going to delete that because we don't need that. The material weights, we don't need to actually zero that out either because it's going to be zeroed out. We are going to have to figure out a way that we're going to assign those things though. So when we're generating a height map, what we might want to do is assign it based on like vertex height or something like that. So not 100% sure how I want to assign the weights just yet. I'll put a to-do in here for that. figure out a way to auto assign terrain material weights. Height, perhaps. Okay, so we'll delete this. And then what we'll do is we will say v material weights 0 is going to be 1.0f, right? So we're just going to set the first material right for right now to have full weight. And that will give us at least one blanket material across the whole thing. Hey, TNT. Welcome, welcome. You have the time to be here today. That's good. It's always a good thing. So we're just continuing our terrain material implementation. And of course, we're still going to wind up having some sort of hard-coded stuff along the way. There's not really a whole heck of a lot we can do about that. Now, we actually have a decision to make here, because our terrain vertex has material weights. Our terrain itself, the configuration, has material names. So we could, right now, theoretically use our standard materials on this instead of having like a special terrain material, which I'm kind of hoping to be able to keep that. I don't know that I'll be able to do that indefinitely, but we're going to try it. So instead of having a different terrain material type, we're just going to stick with that. So we're probably going to need to modify our loader to load up material names, and then we can match those material names to what we have in our assets materials. We could just kind of pick some materials out of here, right, and just kind of use those. And that's what I think is probably going to be the easiest way to get started with this, right? That way we can still have the power of being able to configure our materials by hand like this if we wanted to, and then assign them to the terrain. So we are going to have to handle material names as well, which means that we're going to have to also worry about acquiring the materials, which is why we have this to do here. So we have the material weights. I think that should be fine for now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I should do first. And I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll find it. Okay, so I guess let's go ahead and start the setup of our actual material, or material names, rather, within the terrain configuration. So if I open up the K terrain, we haven't really defined how we're going to do this yet. But I think probably the easiest way is we'll say material and then index. Or do I want to do it this way? Or maybe just at the end might be the easiest parse, right? So we could say material 0, and this will be the material name. So we can say for this one, let's use floor, right? And so that should pick up this guy and use it. And then material 1, we'll go ahead and say is cobblestone, right? And then what we're going to do is we are not going to define any of the other materials, right? We're just going to define 2 because we have a maximum of 4, but we shouldn't necessarily have to use 4. If we only want to use 1, we should be able to do that. So I'm going to leave that as is. And then the terrain loader to do materials, right? So we're going to have to handle this. So I guess probably what we should do is material names. We should probably set up a D array for that. I guess I don't really need a D array if we know we have a maximum amount, right? I guess I could just use a standard array for that. So I guess we could say k allocate. This is going to be size of character pointer, right? So we'll have character arrays, and then we're going to say times 4 because we're going to have 4 of those. Do we have train max material count? We'll use that so that way we don't have to change it later. And then mem tag array. All right. So our material names are set up there. And then our material count starts off as 0. Let's go ahead and remove that. And come down here to the parsing. And let's see, how do we want to do this? We really need to take a substring and compare that. So let's go here and add a else if, and then we'll say string, I guess we could say mid. I could have swore I did this somewhere else, actually. Because we've got to have a buffer to actually put that into. Trimmed var name. Do I want to use trimmed value? Let's just create another one. We'll say character array. I guess mid var name. And we'll initialize that to, do I really want to do that? You know what? I'm just gonna use an inline array here. So I'll just say 256, right? I can't imagine we're gonna have a material name any longer than that. So let's go mid var name as the destination. And then what else is this expecting? I believe it's start and then see trimmed var name and then 0 and then a length of material 7. And then we can wrap this whole thing in a strings equal I, right? So in case insensitive compare, and we'll check for material. So if we find material, then we'll go ahead and extract the index out of that. So we can say U32 in material index. Which OS am I using? I am using Arch Linux, by the way. So we will default this to 0. And then you can say, oh wait, that's 8 long, isn't it? Not 7. That needs to be 8 long. So index 8. So we'll say string to U32. And we are going to want mid. Actually, we're going to want trimmed var name +8 to move us further in that string, right? So that'll be the string there, and then we need the address of material index, and we'll check to make sure that that is valid. So we'll say if that fails to parse, then we will k-warn format error, unable to parse material index. And I guess we'll just default to 0. So if we have that, then we can say, okay, now we should go ahead and extract the value. So I guess at this point, we'll go ahead and say, what did I have that? Resource data material names. So resource data what happened to my IntelliSense here? All right. Material names. And we're going to go sub material index equals string dupe trimmed value. Okay. So we'll take a copy of that. That way we don't have to worry about the life cycle of that. And then we should basically have all of our material names. What is this bleating about now? So string mid wants the destination, the source, the start, and the length. So what am I missing? Passing void to parameter of incompatible type const character. Wait, what? Oh, string mid returns void. I can't use it like that. Right. So this has to be a separate step. Okay. So, crap. I don't necessarily want to do this every time. Didn't I have... I could have swore I did this in the shader loader. Oh, I used n equal I. I forgot I had that. I like almost never used it. Okay. Yeah, so I can literally just do this instead. That's actually probably much better. So let's do strings n equal I. We need really just the trimmed var name. We need a length of 8. And we need to... Wait, what does this want again for arguments? I thought I used -1 here. I might be wrong on that. What does this want? Oh, string 1, string 2. Oh, right. Derp. This is where I need material. And then I want a length of 8. And close that off. Okay, I think that's what I want. Yes. Okay. So I'm basically just going to look for material, and then if I find that, then I will go ahead and extract that out here, and then set its index. Okay, that should be good to go. The desktop environment. I'm using Hyperland for that. So it's a tiled window manager. It's using Wayland under the hood. Thank you for the stretch, Redeem. Need that. Yeah, so Hyperland is actually I'm really liking it a lot. I'm still getting kind of used to it because I've only had it installed for like maybe a month now. And it's a little bit shaky to get running if you use an NVIDIA GPU like I do, but I did get it working. So, hydrate. Okay, thank you for that. You didn't like it and switched to KDE? Yeah, KDE was what I was using before this. Although I also have been used Cinnamon quite a lot, namely because it actually handles high DPI a little bit better in terms of having like a mix and match setup. So my setup here is a little bit, we'll say, non-orthodox. I have 2 monitors that are 4K and 2 monitors that are 1080p. And so getting all of those to play nicely with each other is pretty challenging on X. But Cinnamon actually did pretty well with that. But I have to say that Hyperland handles that beautifully. So it's definitely, for my requirements, it's definitely been really good. Okay. Your Arch works the best with KDE. Tiled managers are sanity for me. Though KDE has some tiling features in 5.27, is enough for me. I tried Hyperland, BSWPN, OpenBox. Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the awesome window manager too, but I tried Hyperland and I'm just like, I really like the way it works. It's super easy to configure and it automatically reloads the configuration like when you make a change. And I've just got it. I've got a key binding on here where I can just pop open the config like right away, and so it's really, really quite useful. Okay, so that's material names, and I think that is all that we have to actually parse out of here. That's new. Oh, I should probably also increase the counter. So resource data material count ++. That definitely would have thrown me. Configuring is nice, but my NVIDIA drivers are a no-go for it. Yeah, I actually had to use the NVIDIA beta package for a while. Although as of 5.30, the latest 5.30 drivers, it seems to be fine. I haven't had any issues with it since. I did have some issues with the, what is it, 6.2.12, I think was the version of the kernel that I had some issues with. Didn't want to compile against those drivers, so I actually had to roll my kernel back for a bit and then wait till the next one dropped, and then that one worked fine. So it's occasional crap like that that's kind of annoying, but this is such a new desktop environment too that I'm not surprised it has issues like that. All right. I think that's all we need to do for there. So when we actually load up the terrain itself, we need to process that now. So we'll go up to, I guess we'll go ahead and do that in terrain create. So we are doing the material count here. If we have a material account, we're allocating these. Looks like we are also creating the array here, so this should just be a matter of copying over from the config. So we should be able to just do a k copy memory. The destination is going to be out terrain material names. And then the source is going to be the, what was it, config? Material names. And then it's going to be the size of character array times out terrain material count. And then that should be good for that. That reminds me though, when we tear down that config, we are going to leak memory if we don't actually fix that. So we need to go back to the terrain loader, and when we destroy this, we actually need to destroy the if data.material names, then k-free data material names, that is going to be the size of a character array times train max material count memory tag array. And then we can do data material names is equal to 0. All right, there we go. So we've not leaked that memory. Let's see. I'll probably stay on KDE for the rest of my life since everything is so strange acting so strange for me on window managers. It's laggy or low performance issues. It's really strange, so I broke up with them. But the Hyperland devs are really nice. So yeah, thankfully I've not had anything I've had to go to the devs about. I've been able to figure all these issues out sort of on my own or from forum posts or whatever. But yeah, I have heard that the Hyperland devs are really easy to work with. So that was kind of encouraging as well. Okay. So we have that. Let me go back to terrain C. So we do materials and material names. Okay, so if we don't have these, then we do that. So that should be fine. Now that we have that, we should be able to go in here and acquire the material names. However, we are setting this to the geometry material, which is not something we want to do. We actually need to have a place to hold those materials. And those are going to be held on the terrain itself, which I think we already have. Yeah, we already have an array of pointers to materials here. Let me make sure that I created that as an array of pointers up here, because I'm not 100% sure that I did. So materials, size of material config. That's just not correct. Not correct at all, actually. I'm glad I looked at that. That should be material pointer. Yeah, okay. So that's good. Glad I found that. All right. So here's the acquisition. All right, so I guess I'm just going to loop through them. So I'll say for u32i equals 0, I is oops, I is less than T material count plus I. And then we'll say T materials sub I is equal to material system acquire. And then we want to go with the, let's see, do we have, so T material names sub I. And then if we, for some reason, don't acquire that, so we'll check to make sure that it exists. So if not T materials sub I, then T materials sub I equals material system get default. And that should give us all the materials that we need. So we can actually bump this up here, remove the to-do, and we'll say acquire materials, and then we can delete those lines. Okay. Did we copy over the material names? I could have swore that we did. Let me double check. Yes, we did there. Okay. So we've taken a copy of the material names. We should have all of our materials acquired now. Obviously, we have a whole bunch of this stuff to undo, like when we go to unload, but I'm not going to fill that in right now because we're going to be changing this, and I don't really feel like refactoring that as well. So that's materials. I think that's actually all we have to do here. That wasn't actually all that complicated at all, which is neat, as long as that hooks up the way I think it's going to. So the next thing we need to do is go ahead and in the view, do I want to do that here? In the, yeah, I guess I can. So in the render view world, so terrain geometries, terrain count, blah, 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 blah. In the render, here is where we are obtaining all of these locations. We need to actually get locations for all of the samplers, and then all of the material structs that we set up. So actually, I think probably the way that do this is I'm going to open up the config, shader config, and just keep this here so that I have all these to reference. So when we create this, could have sworn here somewhere, yeah. So we have all these terrain locations. We need to get rid of shininess and what was it? What was the other one? Shininess and diffuse color, I think it was, because those don't exist anymore. So let's go to definition on that. We're going to get rid of this and get rid of shininess. And we're going to add our other locations down here, our new ones. So I'm going to say U16, and then let's see, we have material info, and that's going to be an array of terrain max material count. And we'll just store all of the indices to those individual ones there. And then U16, we will go with samplers is what I'm going to call this. And we're going to do basically the same thing. So terrain max material count times 3. So again, we'll have diffuse, spec, and normal in there. And that'll give us everything that we need for that. I think that's actually the only 2 changes that we have to make in here. I think everything, nope, there is one more. There is a U16 for num materials. That one's important. All right. So we can come down here to where we load up these definitions here. I'm going to move my... What happened to my camera? My camera died. Why? But why though? All right, I'm gonna put this one back. Oh, come on. Move the right thing here. OBS, you are tripping tonight. All right, so we'll go with that. There we go. Okay. All right, so we have our shininess. I'm going to move down here as well. All right. And I'm just going to refactor this. So I'm going to change this to be, let's use this one for material info. And we'll go, this is, oh, you know what? I think this is actually, yeah, this is a single uniform, so I actually don't want to do it this way. This should not be this way. This should be that, because we're going to feed the entire array in. So this is going to be, why is it counting quotes as part of my word? What is going on? Okay, I'm going to restart Vim because it is totally flipping out on me here. All right. All right, so let's try this again. So we'll have material info, which I think is actually what we called it in the struct down here. Yep, material info. Okay, so we've got that. And then instead of diffuse color, I'm going to do num materials next. So change word num materials. And this is going to be num materials. And as far as our samplers go, those are going to have to be done in an array. So we're going to have data, terrain locations, samplers, and then we'll say sub-0 shader system uniform index. We want the shader to be S. The uniform name is going to be diffuse texture 0, right? So it should match what we have over here. And then we should be able to slam in a couple copies of this, right? So we'll say 1 and 2. And this will be what would we say? I think we just went with spec and specular and then normal. Specular. And then normal. Okay. Kind of wish I'd set this up in a way where we could just do a loop, but it's probably just easier to unroll it for now, honestly. So let's create some space here. Paste a few groups of these things. So enough for 4 materials. And then this one's going to be index 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, and 11. And all of these will just be 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. Again, not the most robust way of doing it, but it will work for now. So at least we have all of those locations available to us. All right. So the next thing is, I think, just going to be assigning them as we go ahead and render it. So we have some hard-coded stuff here. We actually don't need this hard-coded stuff anymore, which is nice. What I am going to have to do, though, is material info. Material infos. Max material count. I'll have to loop through all of our material information and apply these accordingly. So I should actually be able to do that. I think I can do that in a loop. So we'll say for U32, we'll call this M equals 0. M is less than terrain max, terrain max material count plus M. And then let's initialize this whole thing to zeros. What is this? Unknown type. Oh, because we don't have... We declared this in our shader, but we actually didn't declare it here. But I think this is the only place that's going to have to know about it. So I'm going to privately declare this in here. In fact, I'm going to, info. I'm just going to copy pasta this. So come in here, plop that right there, and then that will match what we have in the shader. So we have our material infos here. Forgot to actually type def this so I don't have to type struct all the time. Type def material info. Okay, there we go. So for each one of these, we'll go ahead and material infos sub m dot diffuse color is going to be the terrain. I think it's just let's see, terrain count. Am I literally just doing terrains sub I? Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Wait a minute. Terrain geometries. Terrain locations. So I don't remember all of what was in the packet because we did this a couple weeks ago. So I think it was... Did we only do the geometries in there? If we only did the geometries, that's probably not going to be all that useful. So terrain count is terrain geometry count. We don't actually have the material information being passed over here. So when we build the packet, we're actually going to have to do that as well. How do I want to do this now? So I guess when I build out the packet, I'm going to not only have terrain geometries, but I'm also going to have pointers to the terrain itself so that I can obtain the material data. Because otherwise I'm going to have to make another copy of an array like this, which already sucks. In fact, use frame allocator. We shouldn't be dynamically creating these every single time either, so I need to come back and fix that. So we have terrain geometries and terrain geometry counts. I'm also going to have terrain pointers, maybe. Let's see. World geometries. So where are we actually adding the terrains? World data, terrain geometries. So we don't even have it at this point. So this is actually the simple scene that should be handing this over. I'm already not a huge fan of all this data copying. So we may actually have to simplify this a bit. So I'm just trying to think. So when we populate the render packet, this is for the scene meshes. This is for the terrains. Geometry render data. We're only using this. So we're passing that over to terrain geometries. Here we actually do have the terrains. So I guess I need to do scene world data. I don't like that though, because there could be... The thing is, terrains and terrain geometries aren't always going to be one-to-one. They're one-to-one right now, but they're only one-to-one right now because we have one terrain geometry per terrain. But we go to actually chunk this up for optimization purposes. We're going to have multiple. So the terrain geometries is just geometry render data. But geometry render data, I think, only actually has just has a geometry, which if we peek the definition of that... Oh, really? I can't go to... I think the geometry itself actually only has one material. Can't have multiples. Which was part of the reason we split all this off as well. So if we take a look at our geometry struct, yeah, we have a single pointer to a material. So the problem we have is I could either modify the geometry structure to support multiple materials, which I don't think makes sense, or we now have to actually split it out. Undefined behavior. Thank you so much for following. I appreciate that. I love the name, by the way. The crappy part of this is everything else about terrain geometry is going to be the same, except for the material. So the ID, the internal ID, the generation, the center extents name, like all that kind of stuff, like all of these properties are all going to wind up being the same between geometry and terrain geometry. So I'm really hesitant to like make another copy of the structure. It probably should have its own material. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I suppose I could make... One initial thought that I had also was just to have like a special type of material for terrains that had like multiple submaterials, but that kind of gets complicated quick too. There was one thing I was actually gonna try as an experiment along the way too, but I kind of wanted to get this working first. So now I'm just wondering, should I continue to go in this direction or not? What is the approach you want to take for terrain rendering? So I want to take a couple approaches, right? So the idea here is I want to show a few different ways of doing it. So right now we're sort of handling it the naive way, which is basically look at who's in here. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm trying to handle this the naive way, which is basically saying, okay, well, we've got one large mesh. We haven't chunked it up yet. We haven't optimized it. We haven't done anything. And then we have, say 4 materials that we are going to blend, right? And that just kind of gets us to the first sort of step of this. And eventually we're going to be adding things like the ability to have a lot more materials, for example, but also the ability to chunk out the terrain so that we have multiple chunks of it so that we're not rendering the whole thing at once, including what's off screen. Implodey is from the Cherno server. Yeah, I lurk in that server. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to chat, but I do lurk in Cherno's server quite a lot too. There's some interesting conversations that happen in there. So yeah, like I want to try a few different things in terms of how I'm going to render the terrain, right? So my first approach here is basically just the simple approach, and then from there I'll optimize it. Because I have a few different things that I actually wanted to try. Some of them more advanced than others, but I kind of wanted to get something simple working first. I'm just wondering, since I've kind of gone this route, like I feel like I need to see it through, but it's going to wind up duplicating some structures, which I'm not really a huge fan of. Because the thing is, no other type of geometry is going to have multiple materials except for this. So I think I'm probably just going to make a terrain geometry and have it follow 90% of the same code path as regular geometry does, except for materials. I think that's the way I'm going to have to do it. I guess I could get around this, I suppose, by hacking the packet too. Because I could use... Oh, I should have used the material ID instead of a pointer. That might have been easier, actually. Oh well. All right. So I think for now, yeah, there's two big parts when it comes to terrain rendering, I'd argue. Geometry, LOD processing, and the texture processing. Both can be done somewhat independently from each other. Yes, true. Yeah, LOD is another thing, right? Tessellation, or lack thereof, is definitely something I need to cover as well. So, like I said, I haven't done any optimization with this yet. We've literally only had the terrain working, I think, for a day or two. 2 days, I think it is. Okay. So instead of geometry render data, maybe what I'll do is have a new structure at this level where I could say terrain geometry render data, and then just specify multiple materials here. Using the GPU tessellator is generally a bad way of doing LODs. It's good if you want quick and dirty. Yeah, I wasn't when I said tessellation, I wasn't necessarily meaning the GPU tessellator. I mainly meant, skipping vertices and stuff like that for LOD. So I guess it's sort of the opposite of tessellation, whatever that would be. I actually don't know what that is off the top of my head. Because we actually did, if I recall, I anticipated the need for this a while ago, and that was why I added this. Is because I had a feeling that we were going to have to split these structs out, and it turns out that I am correct. And what's interesting about this, and this is actually making me rethink the geometry render data structure entirely, is if we look at the Vulkan backend, when we do the draw, all we're actually utilizing out of this is the vertex and the index buffer, right? Like, we don't even care about materials at this level. It's kind of a leftover thing that the material data even exists to begin with at this level. So I'm actually thinking, that doing it this way might be okay for right now. I am rethinking this. This is probably going to need to be refactored at some point anyway. So type def struct terrain geometry. You know what? I'm going to say terrain render data. And we'll have a model matrix, which again isn't really needed here. This is more of a packet thing. It's kind of a way to package them all up, to pass it off to the view, and then the view passes bits off to the renderer in different phases. So I'm actually wondering if this package even makes sense anymore, but I'm going to roll with it for right now. So I'll say geometry, and then U32 unique ID. That's for the picker. And then we'll also have material, a material array, which actually this probably should be, let's go with terrain max material count. So it'll just be an array of pointers to materials. Decimation, yes, that's the term I'm looking for. Yeah, that's the right one. I can't always think of terms off the top of my head. Sometimes those things just get lost for me. All right, so we have terrain render data, which means we probably need to change that here. Terrain render data. We are still doing this internal geometries thing, which I'm not 100% sold on either. I may need to refactor that as well. Vulnerable, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that. I'm going to skip over that for right now. Is that the only thing I actually have to change? I think it is. Because at this level, we don't really care. So, change that in the H file. Oh, I'm going to have to change this at the plugin level too. That kind of sucks. There it is. Terrain render data. I'm going to guess we didn't forward declare that. It should be in resource. Nope, renderer types. No, we have renderer types here. What is this bleating about? Use of undeclared identifier. Oh, okay. It doesn't like this apparently. Where is that actually? I think that's under terrain, which I really don't want to actually include here. Okay. I'm going to cheat and do this for now, because I have a feeling this is all going to be reworked anyway. I really should get back to work on my terrain editor. Yeah, I actually can't wait to work on a terrain editor. It's going to be super fun. I'm stoked to actually get to that point. Good evening, Smudge. How are you? Welcome, welcome. I should work again on my engine, but I'm so tired that my eyes are barely open right now. Yeah, I totally understand that. Especially after having a night or two of not great sleep. I totally understand where you're coming from there. All right, so terrain render data. I think that's all we need to do for here. Why is this bleating? Oh, because I didn't name it down here. Terrain Render data. There we go. Now we should be good over here. That should be it for that. Then we need to go to the plugin main. Actually, what is this bleating about now? Renderer types INL. Unknown type terrain. I don't think I included terrain in here. I think my IntelliSense is tripping again. Yeah, I think my IntelliSense is tripping. I think it's just... I'd say it's going to be reworked in quite a short time. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Yeah, like I said, this terrain is basically just to get something up and running, but I'm definitely going to rework this. Because the cool part about this, though, is up until now, all I've really had was like static meshes. And it's kind of like the rendering model that I have set up worked really well for that. But now I'm seeing the second I step outside of that for things that are a little bit different in how they render, like terrains. It's exposing some things that I'm like, I should probably change this or improve that. So it's pretty, it's a pretty neat thing to kind of see evolve. Yeah, once you get into terrain, you can actually get something that feels like a game world. Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, like I do have height maps working, so like we had some stuff that actually kind of was visually cool to look at last night, but of course now I've broken that. So none of that's gonna actually display until I get all this stuff straightened around and fixed. All right, so terrain. I guess I need to go back to the simple scene where we populate the packet. And this needs to be terrain render data now. I think I just called this G. So delete word. Which that's probably going to have multiple geometries at some point, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. Terrain unique ID for object picking. I'm not going to worry about that right now. What I am going to do, though, is copy, or I should say take pointers to materials. So for U32 I, no, I can't use I. It's going to have to be M equals 0, M is less than terrain max material count, plus I, whoops, plus M rather. Senior K, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. So as we are going through these, I will take a look at scene terrains sub I dot materials sub M, and I'm going to say data dot materials sub M is equal to the address of that material. Unless it's already a pointer, which it might be. It is a pointer already, so I don't need the address of it. It's already a pointer. Okay. So we've got our pointers here. That will be in our render data available for us to use on the other side in the view, which is where we actually need it. So I think that's all I need to do for that. World data, terrain geometries. That is probably wrong now. It is. This needs to be terrain render data. Okay. Why is this still complaining about? Okay, I think my language server must be having a really hard time tonight, I guess. Okay. Personally, I want to play around with concurrent binary trees, particularly interested in how I'll try to solve some things that aren't mentioned in the SIGGRAPH talk nor paper. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I love reading papers and listening to talks about stuff, but I don't generally implement any of those things sort of as they stand. Like, I take the concept, I think about it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try something that works until I'm going to try a bunch of stuff until I find something that works the way I want it to, basically. So I tend to do the same thing. I play around with a lot of stuff, which I've done in here in this engine quite a lot too. I'm just like, well, that didn't work, but now you guys understand why. So that's kind of the half of the purpose of me doing this anyway. Okay, so that is set up. Where are we creating this world data? Because I think whenever we create the terrain geometries, which actually that's kind of a crappy name for it. Let's see, where were we? Here we go. So we need to actually change this to terrain render data. I would rename that, except it's probably not going to rename everywhere. It'll probably fail. So, all right. I think that's everything for there. So let's go back to the view. Render view world. And where we are world data, internal data. That's not the one I need. Okay. So let's see. We have the world geometries here. That's not what we want. We want the terrain geometries. Out packet to terrain geometries. So all we're doing here is actually just copying these over to the packet, I guess. This seems kind of redundant. Okay. It is what it is, I guess. Terrain geometries. Why are we doing this, actually? Oh, okay, I see. This also has to be changed. So, terrain render data. All right, so we have that. Which now has me thinking. When we create this, yeah, that's what I thought. Got to change it here. Terrain render data. Which means this is probably also wrong. Nope, that one's actually correct. Okay, so we've already changed that one. Let's see. Oh, right. Okay, this is kind of where we left off. So, I guess what we can say here is packet, or do we want the internal data? Terrain geometries, sub I dot materials. sub m dot diffuse color. There we go. Okay, so this is kind of the point I was trying to get back to. However, indexing these this way kind of sucks, so I'm going to grab this and do that and say material p mat is equal to the address of that. Actually, yeah. Material sub m. Oh, I don't need the address of that because I think it's already a pointer. So now I can just say, let's see. Pmat. Material. Yep. Okay. So now we can say material infos sub m shininess equals pmat shininess. All right. So we load each one of those up in our array, and then we also need to replicate this step here of setting the material locations. So I'm going to go to, I think I'm just going to copy this once here and put it here. So we are going to do data terrain locations, samplers, and then since we want to do diffuse, we're going to do, I guess we're going to do, what is it, m for the material index times 3 plus 0 is going to give us the correct index. So we use the diffuse map from the material for that. This is going to be pmat diffuse map. And we'll do this 2 more times. So we'll want the specular next, so this will just be changed to a 1. Whoops. This will just be changed to a 1, and we'll change this to a 2. And then change this to specular map, and change this to normal map from that material, right? So each material we loop through, we get the appropriate offset in here, and I think that is everything we need to do for binding these things. So basically, this whole section can go. Is that it? Can't be it. That feels too simple. Okay. Let's do... I need to quit out of this for a second because I actually forgot to use tmux. And then over here I will do build all. Unknown type is. So line 950. Terrains. Do we not have? I thought we had. Oh, wait, no, terrain doesn't exist here. So this needs to be struct terrain. And then struct terrain. And for declare those guys. Okay. Let's see. Incompatible pointer types. Geometry render data. Oh, I missed one. Okay, so render view world 403. View world 403. All right. Render terrain. Oh, did I forget to change the front end? I did. What a dingus. Okay, so change this to terrain render data, which means that the front end C file needs to also be changed. So let's change this to terrain render data. And I forgot to change the plugin interface as well, so we'll go to definition on that. And change this to terrain render data. Okay. Geometry utils. Oh, right, because I changed tangent to be a vector 4. Okay. So right. T4. Let's go with we will replace this with 4. And then we'll say vec 4 from vec 3. And we'll just ignore the last element. Set it to 0. Okay. Unused variable. Oh, right. Okay. Let me see. What did I say that was? Mid var name. Okay. No member name geometry in terrain render data. Oh, right. Yes, that is true. So, newest C compiler has auto. What a nightmare. Yeah, I won't be using auto. No, thank you. I think a super basic template would make C so much more enjoyable when it comes to data structures. Why did they pick auto of all things? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't use templates in C++ either when I do C++. I'm not a fan of templates, to be honest. Anytime there's something where a template would be needed, I question why, and I stop and I'm just like, but why? Oleg, thank you so much for the subscription, the tier 1 subscription. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the support there. Appreciate that. Okay. What was the error I was looking at again? Vulkan backend 1583. 1583. Yes, this is going to be just G. Okay, let's just write everything real quick. Okay, it built. Now, whether or not this is going to run remains to be seen. So I'm just going to cross my fingers and let's see what happens. Let's debug. And it looks like we have already foobarred somewhere. String format V. Roll the drums. Yeah, womp womp. More like sad trombone. I did something stupid with strings. Let's see. Texture map resources acquire. Add sampler. Shader system create. So we're creating the render view. That's going to be the world render view. Shader system create. Add a sampler. Okay, so something we're doing with our samplers is not right, apparently. But what though? I mean, why are we getting an issue all the way at this level? That seems kind of strange. What is the text map sampler? I don't see anything in here that's like obviously wrong. All right. This is making me think that we did something stupid in here. Probably getting the... Oh, you know what? It might actually be... It could be our configuration too. Let's see. So all these look fine. I don't think we're doing anything stupid here. Material info. Okay. Let's look at our shader config for terrain. So maybe we did something stupid in here. There was nothing in the log. I haven't looked at the log yet, actually. That's a good point. But I'm just looking for something that's going to be super obvious. Let's see. Mad Flash, Cooper, and Stowe. Thank you so much for the follows. I appreciate those. Thank you. All right. These all look correct to me. I don't see any weird characters in here or anything. So I don't think it's that. So we created our graphics pipelines, but I don't see anything here. No, I don't see anything in the logs. Nothing in the logs. Nothing useful anyway. We may wind up having to actually step through this. So here's where we're actually loading the shader. Oh, you know what? I might not have recompiled, actually. Although I could have swore I did. Ah, okay. There's something going on here. Something in the vertex shader on line 66. So oh, right. Because I changed the tangent to a vector 4, but I didn't actually change that here. So here I'm actually just going to cheat here and say X, Y, Z and completely ignore the W on that. And hopefully that will actually fix it. Okay, so our shaders compile, so that's good. Let me just rebuild this. I think we're good there. Let's try. Okay, so it's failed again for some reason. So it'd be nice if it actually told me like why it was failing. So I'm still kind of getting used to this debugger. I haven't. I mean, it's essentially using. Take a look at the config again. Yeah. Your code setup looks like a literal video game. Mine is just GitHub dark mode. Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing, I think. Oh, Osama the Coding Llama. Hi, how are you? Welcome. Take a look at the config again. GDB is rough. Yeah, GDB can be kind of rough for sure. If it gets too bad, I guess I can hop back over to code if I absolutely have to. I'm trying to do this without doing that if I can help it. So let me just continue this. And all right, so shader config, terrain. So this is like the new stuff we added here, which is all of these guys. And then we should be ignoring empty lines, so that shouldn't be an issue. And then we have our material infos here, and then we added this num materials here. So like we haven't added anything that's crazy. TNT, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. And I'll see you around. So yeah, I definitely think all of this stuff should be fine. They all have unique names and whatnot, so I don't think it's any of that either. But it does definitely seem to be coming from this. So I'm just like wondering if I missed a comma somewhere or something stupid. Struct and then size. Yeah, it's not any of these guys. I think I saw you only using samplers 0, 1, and 2 when you bind them. So, are you talking here? When I get the index, or down where I'm actually rendering it, which shouldn't be the case either, right? Because we're using an offset based on the current index material. So I don't think it's that. And I also don't have a scene loaded, and it's crashing like right off the bat. So it wouldn't even be reaching this code anyway. It seems to be happening in the creation. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be, I don't know if it's before this. I think what I'm going to have to do is probably just, put a breakpoint here and step through the code, because I don't see any other way around it, quite frankly. So if we do resource system load, that seems to work fine. The shader config, and then when we go to create, I think that's where it poops itself. So I will run this again. And this time not skip over that. So Forgotten, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that. All right, so the problem is I don't know forms attributes. It's probably going to be something like really, really, really stupid. This is render, shader, create. I don't think it's that. It's probably going to be, this is going to be add. I don't think it's going to be the attributes either. No, it added those fine. So add uniform. So, okay, so we're adding a uniform. I think it's when it's adding a sampler is probably what it's tripping up over. So we'll say config uniforms I. Let's take a look at config. Diffuse texture 0. So that's the first one. Uniform name valid. Here's the location. Okay, this is all texture map stuff. Shouldn't be that. I think I remember seeing this in the call stack, so I'll step into this real quick. Convert filter type. Okay, this is all standard stuff. We create the sampler. Okay. Formatted name. This, I think, is probably what's failing. So what is this all using? Map texture name. So if we look at map, ooh. There's the problem right there. Texture is a null pointer. Why is that the case? Why would that be null? So we've set up the that's very interesting. So we're using the default map because we don't actually have one loaded. So the texture system get default texture is must have returned us a null pointer. So that is very interesting, because that makes me wonder if we're doing this like before the texture system is stood up, which seems really bizarre. So let me try that one more time. And I'm going to jump directly to that. And do we have Yep. Our texture system is not... Oh, wait a minute. Yes, it is. It is It is loaded. So what is this complaining about then? Default texture. Oh, interesting. The map texture isn't null here. Okay. So it's apparently not this one that's the problem? Yeah, it is. Interesting. Let's see. Does not show a falling stack at all. You know, it's kind of strange. Like, this debug UI that I have here doesn't always show me the stack, which is kind of annoying. And I don't know why that is. So I may wind up having to debug this in VS Code, unfortunately. Yeah, if it's returning null pointer, why is the K error not being called? That is a good question. I'm not really sure what's going on about that. Yeah, what about using the G2B command to show the stack? I could try that, I guess. Segmentation fault, yeah. I think it's BT. No, what is it? GB. What is the command for that? I haven't used GDB on its own in quite a while, so I don't remember always what it is. Backtrace should do it. Show, yeah. Why is that not? Backtrace isn't giving me anything. Unless this doesn't work the way that I thought it does, which is possible. Okay. It is definitely BT. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is, unfortunately, I do keep this around for backup purposes. I'm going to just run this from VS Code and see where it starts pooping itself. So let's put this over here. All right, so Wait, it failed there? All right, hold on. Let me clean and rebuild real quick. Oh, why do I have a breakpoint there? All right, don't need that. Okay, so you move over here. So it is definitely... Let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see what I'm looking at. All right, so if we trace this back, oh, it is a texture. It's literally because it doesn't have a name. Wait, it does have a name though. Okay, what? So the map being passed here is a null pointer. Or has a null pointer in the texture, I should say. And actually, this is completely invalid. So the default map indeed doesn't have a texture. It does, though. I'm passing the address of default map. Okay, this is very strange because I haven't touched this code in like forever, so I'm not really sure what I could have broken in here. Yeah, it is a DApp, but I think it's using GDB under the hood. So I was like expecting that GDB commands would work, but apparently not. So global texture maps. Oh, I think, you know what? Actually, I don't know if I've tested global texture maps before. I don't know if I've ever actually used them before now. I know instance textures I have. Global ones I'm not sure about. So this may never have worked. Because I don't think... the shader config for... Yeah, this is an instance texture map. So yeah, it's entirely possible that global texture maps just never worked. Because I don't think I've actually tested that yet. Well, that's fun. All right. So global texture maps here. Where are my instance texture maps? So this is add sampler. So this is the resource acquisition. Yeah, I think there's something screwy going on here. So this is probably where I'm going to wind up cutting the stream for tonight, I think. Just because I'm a little bit tired and brain dead at the moment. So FYI, I'm working on a game on top of Vulkan as well, but I'm using a slimmed down subset of C++. So do you mean like you're not using all the C++ 20 fanciness and all that? Is that what you mean by that? Because like I know when I code in C++, I use very C-like C++. I don't use all the managed pointers and stuff like that. So if that's what you mean, yeah, I'm all about that. Render a texture map sources require. I wonder if I just use. I wonder if I just use map instead here, if that'll work. I kind of doubt it, but. Might have worked. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, we have runnage. All right. I guess that was it. I guess I was just doing something funky or stupid there. However, we do have another crash. So we kind of figured out one problem, but let's see. Segmentation fault. So material infos. So it's not going to be that. That's index 3. Oh, this shouldn't be doing this. That should be based off the terrain material count itself. Okay, that's actually a quick one to fix, I think. So packet terrain geometries sub I. I don't have a material count here, do I? I do not have a material count. All right. I think I'm actually done with this for now. Let me go back to here. I want to just try something before I end the stream tonight, just to see if I can figure out what it is. So when we do the simple scene, populate packet, we are setting up the terrain render data here. We do the materials here, but we're not actually doing a material count, I don't think. So we have scene terrains, oops, sub I, material count. We do have that, but we're not actually copying that. So we should probably do data dot material count equals this, right? And then let's say U32 material count. And then when we go to render view world, when we're looking at the on render, when we're looking at the terrains here, right here, this should be packet terrain geometries sub-I material count. Build this. Okay, and run, launch. Still have breakpoints over here. Let's get rid of those. Okay, we'll load. We loaded the scene. Okay. We do not have a terrain though, so something has gone wrong. Let's take a look at the logs. Okay. We have a whole bunch of Vulkan. Oh, global image samplers are not yet supported. Ooh, that's fun. Okay. That must be a to-do I forgot. Let's see. Let me just catch up here on the chat. I just like constant methods, etc. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get that. Okay, so yeah, evidently global image samplers are not yet supported, which is, I'm not sure why I wouldn't have done that at this point, but I implemented that a long time ago. So global texture, did I say global image maps? What is it? Global image samplers are not yet supported. Okay. Fun. So for some reason, I didn't implement this, and I'm not 100% sure why, but now I actually need to. So this is where I'm going to leave off. Implement global image samplers. So that's actually a pretty good place to leave off. So we made some pretty good progress tonight. I was hoping to get at least a visual result up, but sometimes those past to-dos come and actually just, they bite you, you know? So unfortunately, we're not going to get there tonight, but I think on the next stream we definitely will. So thank you guys so much for all of the follows and the interaction and the support. I really appreciate it. It's great to interact with you guys and have you here following along with the series. It's really been a lot of fun. ENVP, thank you so much for the follow. So for any of you guys that aren't aware, I do also have a YouTube channel. It's over at youtube.com/TravisVroman. And that has the archive of all of these streams, as well as the beginning of the YouTube video series, which is actually what kicked this whole process off. So I have all of that, and then so that's over there. So feel free to go over there and subscribe so that you guys see some of the devlogs and things that I post there as well. And then only 3 followers left to reach the goal. That's true. Getting close to 200 followers, which is nuts. So that's kind of a neat little milestone there. We just hit 10,000 subscribers the other day on YouTube, which was really cool as well. So, but with that said, like, subscribe, follow, do all the things. I appreciate you guys, and I'm going to look for a channel to raid real quick, and more than likely, it is going to be Ferret Software, and I'd like to raid this channel because basically this is Pirate Software's ferrets. So he's another game developer here on Twitch, and he has a bunch of pet ferrets, some of which he's going to be fostering because that's a need, and taking care of ferrets is very expensive and time consuming, and he does a fantastic job with it. And he has this 24-hour stream where he's running that, basically, where you can kind of watch them do their thing, and all of the proceeds go towards taking care of the ferrets. So I think it's a really good cause, and as a result, I'm going to raid that channel. So that is what we're going to go ahead and raid tonight. So thank you guys so much for following along, and I will see you guys on the next stream. See ya.